Hello, everyone. Welcome to Diary of a Portal. It is Marlou here.
Ashley.
Hey, we have a wonderful, wonderful guest. She is a licensed medical health professional, Jenny Rodrigue. We'll get into that, but of course, our moment of gratitude. Um, this week, I am grateful for vacation. Okay, I did my last shift. And it was well, but even if it wasn't in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna be here for a while. And I get to vacation in Jamaica, Queens. So
You
that's where
had
I'll
me for a
be.
moment.
I have to tell myself, it's going to be as luxurious as though I were on the island, and that's what that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna stick by her. So I'm enjoy. Hmm.
There's nothing like staycations either.
Yeah.
Um, I feel that sometimes they're so quick to be like, oh, where are we going? Where are we vacationing
Yeah.
to? When there is beauty of just staying home and
Yes.
just relaxing.
Yeah.
So,
Just
Doing the things you were supposed to do, want to do. Thankfully we don't live in the middle of nowhere. There's many things I can do and still go broke without leaving 5 mile radius of my home. Okay.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
All right. So I guess I am grateful for love this week. Went to a beautiful wedding. It's nothing like going to a wedding. You just feel the love,
Uh-huh.
seeing people you haven't seen in a while,
Uh-huh.
connecting with people. I just love celebrating love. So I'm was happy to witness a beautiful union and be among beautiful people as well. So yeah, that's what I'm grateful for.
Yes, love is always worth celebrating, and you get to dress up and, be cute and have a moment with it. I was gonna say, and have free open bar, but we might get into a little bit of that later in the conversation.
yeah.
Yes. But Jenny, do you have anything you want to tell us you're grateful for?
Gratitude. Let's see. I am grateful for growth. I've had a
Mm. Mm.
it's uncomfortable, but it's good. And so I'm very grateful for the growth that I'm experiencing in my career, personal life, everything. So that's my gratitude. Thank you.
Yes, listen, because we can't always see, the grass is greener
Yeah.
when we're being made uncomfortable. So it's great that you can and you
Yeah.
do
Holding on to that. So
with dear life.
yeah.
I
Yes.
love
Yeah.
that. Yes. So,
Yeah.
we have you here because I feel like a lot of times we don't like to talk as a community, as a Black community, about addiction.
Yeah.
And I'm not particularly sure about your background, but especially I feel as someone from Caribbean descent, we
Oh,
really don't talk about it. Like when I tell you it's there,
yeah.
they'll probably call it something else. They might call it the devil. They call it whatever they want to call it, but they're not going to call it addiction.
Hmm.
Um, so we wanted to talk to you, professional about overcoming addiction and what that looks like. So we wanted to start first by defining what addiction is. So can you tell us what the definition of addiction?
Yes. So the actual definition is it's a chronic primary disease of brain reward, which basically
Mm.
means primary disease means it doesn't have to coexist with any other disease. It can occur all on its own. And it's chronic, just like chronic pain means it's always there, it's always going to be with you. It's characterized by relapse, which means, usually people have to fall off and get back on and fall off and get back on. And it's a disease of the brain because all substances work in our brain. They attach to some neurotransmitter and they are making us feel something that we want to feel.
Mm-hmm.
But plainly, I would say addiction, it happens because of genetics, it happens because of environment, it can occur in anyone, anyone. That's what I really want to always get people to understand. It's not about socioeconomic status. It's not about your color,
Mm-hmm.
race. It can happen to anyone. I've seen all gambits of people experience addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. You were mentioning how it is a disease, and I think sometimes people have a hard time
Yeah,
wrapping their mind around that. So I wanted to ask, is addiction also, can it also coexist as a personality trait as well? Because I feel like people may not really distinguish it as a disease.
gotcha. I often get that they don't. People don't see how it can be a disease.
Yeah.
Compared to diabetes, something our community often knows a lot about.
Hmm.
Big Mama got the sugar. It's something
Yeah.
that we're used to talking about. And so, just like diabetes is a disease of the pancreas, uh, and it has several factors. So, if you look at a diabetic, it can be genetic, it can run in your family, but then also it's environmental. Just because it runs in your family doesn't mean you're going to get it. But if you continue to eat that second and third piece of cake, it's highly likely that you're probably going to end up with it. And then it's also social. When you look at what's acceptable, if you have a family where diabetes runs in the family, and so we say, hey, we're going to eat rounded meals, we're not going to have any soft drinks, we're going to have vegetables. Well, then, 9 times out of 10, others in the family won't develop it. But if I'm from New Orleans. Food is our culture, and so you kind of insulting people when you refuse to eat or
Yeah.
refuse, to eat their fried chicken because they have the best one. So
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
also environmental. So it's just like that with addiction. Just because it runs in your family doesn't necessarily mean you'll get it. But if you decide to start drinking alcohol and you don't pay attention to what it does to you. You don't pay attention to what symptoms you're having. You don't pay attention to the fact that now you're craving it and you're also, wanting to do it more and more, then you're probably going to develop that disease of addiction. And it's also both are of choice. Like I said, just because diabetes runs in your family doesn't mean you have to do the things that will cause that diabetes to come. And it's the same thing I meet with teens with prevention, and
Mm.
they know it runs in their family. If we do that and it runs in their family, we're going to talk about some things you probably shouldn't do. Maybe alcohol isn't for you, and that's okay. Maybe you can't vape, and that's okay. So it's just like those. That's how I like to compare it, because it's basically they both are a disease of a body part. And I think the sooner we accept it as a disease, the more we'll be able to talk about it, and the less stigma that would be around it. People are so afraid to come forward and say, I'm having this problem, because people look at it as moral failing. Like you didn't
Mm.
do the right things, and you just decided to drink, and you became this and you became that. Or, as mothers, we often get blamed. Well, if your mama wouldn't have did this, and so it's just a lot of shame and
Yeah.
guilt around it. And the more you shame and guilt, the more people are going to continue to die from the disease.
Right. Die in silence, unfortunately.
Yes.
And it's just like we were saying, it in our culture and in our society as a whole,
Yeah.
it's like, when you celebrate things, let's go out to eat, let's go have drinks. you
Yeah.
know Ashley went to a wedding. It's almost like, yes, let's bring out the champagne and everything like
Mm,
that, right? And I think when it comes to alcohol, because it's not seen like a hard drug, it's legal.
yep.
It's legal. um it's not villainized
As
the
every.
same way others are.
Yeah.
Right.
But and it's just enmeshed. It's just enmeshed from prohibition to whatever. It's part of our society,
Yeah.
right? How, when you're faced with all of these different pressures, if you will,
Yeah.
to consume alcohol and partake, how do you combat alcohol dependence in these kind of environments?
Well, first, I like to distinguish the fact that everybody is not addicted because they drink. Some people have
Mm.
the ability to drink. They know their limits. They do not have any issues with showing up to work or taking care of their kids. So those people are responsibly using alcohol. I love to say that because I don't want anybody to think, oh, I can't drink ever. That's not. It's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the way to avoid dependence is to first know your limits. You have to know yourself and not be ashamed of your limit. If you are the lightweight in the group, that's fine. That's more than fine. If
Mm-hmm.
you're the person, your dad or your mom, you saw them grow up and constantly drink and have these issues, so therefore you don't want them, that's also fine. You can decide that, hey, I'm not going to drink, or if I'm going to drink, I'm going to know my limits. If I'm going to do shots, maybe I can only do one shot, and then I need to watch everybody's purse. There's a lot of ways to think about how you can handle it.
Yeah.
If you're at a spot though, because most people don't realize they have a problem until that problem is staring them in the face. Most of the people I meet, it's because they now have a consequence as a result of their drinking. They have lost their job, or they're on the verge of losing their job. Their spouse is about to leave, or children and family services are now involved because of arguments and fights that they've had from alcohol. So if you've already at that point, you're probably going to need a little bit more help. It's probably not going to be something that you can just taper on your own. But if you're at a spot where you're just trying to figure out, you're young and you're going out, you're having fun, just, be respectful of your own limits, know them, and hydrate. Hydrate, people. You have to hydrate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hydrate.
Mm-hmm.
Get the water out. Don't just be throwing back shots. You got to give your body something else. And
Balance.
balance.
And we're 70% of water, so we
That's
need the water.
another way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So since we are in these kind of environments where we feel some people may feel pressure to drink, like what are some symptoms we should look out for when someone do like overdose? And I'm not necessarily talking about like alcohol per se, just like a lot of other parties or social gatherings where people may feel pressured. I'm just wondering what are some symptoms people should look out for.
Definitely. So it depends on the drug, what you're looking out for. But overall, slurred speech happens pretty much across every drug. If you're talking about opiates like heroin or fentanyl is like in everything now.
Mm,
You're going to be looking at bluish, pale skin, slow breathing, or even passing out. For alcohol overdose kind of looks like extreme sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You really just are kind of just, and you can't move, and your body just has not been able to process it out fast enough. Is really what's happening. At that point, you really want to get people to the emergency room because alcohol is very socially acceptable, but it's one of the main drugs that you can overdose on and have seizures. It's one of the main drugs that when you go through withdrawals, you can die. So people don't realize that because it is so socially acceptable. So I just like to get the word out that, just because it's socially acceptable doesn't make it safe all the time.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Go. You had something to ask Ashley?
no, I was just gonna say I don't think people do know how dangerous alcohol withdrawal is.
Yes.
Because the way you have to, they're not even sometimes on a regular unit. Sometimes they have to be on a step down unit where they have to be
Yes.
closely monitored.
Yeah.
Like maybe every 2 hours, I am giving like Ativan.
Yeah.
Like you have to really be on top of them. And I don't think people understand like the detrimental effects of alcohol. I usually get nervous when I used to be in adult medicine. I used to get like nervous when I had like an alcohol withdrawal patient because I knew I had to keep a close eye on them at all times. So I
Yeah.
don't think people
It's not
really know that.
see. We, in our in culture and everyday life, we see people having fun with alcohol. We see
Yeah.
people buying bottles and we buying out the club, and that's cute. And that's okay if you're doing it in moderation, but we're not
Yeah.
showing the side of people in the hospital and they have other chronic diseases. And so we're not sure if they're going to make it out this withdrawal safely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that is a scary thing because most people think just sleep it off, like it'll just wear off, and it's
Yeah.
clearly not that simple and easy. And for people like you guys who've seen it firsthand, it can be very scary. And so yeah, take that trip to the hospital if you feel like it's a scary situation, because
Yeah.
you rather have that person be safe and alive than
Yes.
not.
Yes. And
Um,
any
mhm.
overdose potential. I always say, we can't help dead people go into recovery. So we need you alive. And we need to be able to have those conversations so that we can keep you alive.
Yes. Speaking of, keeping people alive, there's a particular drug called Narcan.
Yeah.
Um, for some people, I'm sure a lot of people are not aware of it. So can you tell us why it's so important and, why it should be readily available?
Yes, I can. So there's a few reasons why you should have Narcan, even if you don't think you know anyone who uses any opioid. So
Mhm.
I actually have my Narcan.
Wow.
And so what it does is it reverses opioid overdoses. And opioids are like oxycodone, heroin, fentanyl. So it knocks it off of those receptors so that the person can breathe again and that they don't have that respiratory failure. It's very important to have because you never know who may be in distress. If we have a situation where we're silent about drug use, there's probably somebody within, your own family or your own social circle that uses drugs, and you don't even know because they don't know how to talk about it. So we can have that conversation once we Narcan them and keep them alive. Um,
Mhm.
I do have one that's open, so I don't know if this helps. But it looks like that. It's basically a nasal spray. You stick it up their nose, spray it, lay them on their side in case they vomit. And you call 911. But it's important because I've seen teenagers who have taken something from somebody at school, and then they needed to be Narcan at home, and mom never knew that they were using anything.
Wow.
I've seen grandpa, grandma, you know, that nobody would ever thought that they would be, taking drugs, but their doctor cut them off of their pain meds. So now they're buying them on the street and laced with fentanyl, and now they're over. So you should always have it because you just never know. And it's always best to err on the side of caution because it doesn't hurt. If the person appears to be overdosing, but they're not, it doesn't hurt them. So it's always best just to err on that side of caution. So I keep it in my house. I carry it in my purse. Like I said, I live in New Orleans, so Jazz Fest and French Quarter Fest and all those great things. I promise you, people are using drugs, and so
Yeah.
if I happen to be standing there and I can help, I'd love to help.
Mhm.
Yeah, I get that. Speaking, because Mardi Gras just passed recently in New
Yeah,
Orleans.
yeah.
Um,
We just
and
want what we want.
I'm just wondering, just want to throw it in there. How can a person try to navigate those kind of spaces like that? Just not necessarily in New Orleans, like even New York City, these
Yeah.
like populous areas where we're known to drink. How can people navigate it and, not necessarily become like pressured to that lifestyle per se? What are some alternatives?
Gotcha. So first of all, I want people to know that you can still have fun without drinking or using drugs. Uh,
Hmm.
and I know that sounds basic and simple, but it's amazing how many teenagers I meet that are like, "Oh, I don't have to do that to have fun." No, you don't. Give it a try. Uh, so it's first of all, you can still have fun. You can still hang out. You don't have to drink or use drugs to do that. But also, if you're a person that you have a problem drinking, maybe you're still kind of early and you're not able to go to certain places. Or maybe you need a buddy. You need somebody that you can tell, hey, I'm not drinking tonight, run interference for me. I've seen people do it all the time. I've ran interference for people. It works. Or and I hate to tell people to lie, but you can say things like, I get drug tested at work, or I get sobriety tests after holidays, things like that. Um,
Girl, you can say I'm pregnant, as a female.
there you go. I didn't want to throw it out, but you ain't
Throw
got.
it out there, girl. People need options.
I'm not, or I could be pregnant, so I don't want to take no chances. You can say things
Right.
like that. So it's a lot of ways, but be prepared is the main thing I tell people. If you don't want to drink or you want to drink a certain limit, know that before you go. Have a game plan before you go. But if you find yourself in the midst and you feel like, oh, it's too late, I'm already here. don't know how to get out of this situation, you can just politely decline or use one of the, great excuses and thoughts that we just used. It's best just to kind of err on that side of caution, and you can still have fun. I've seen people have fun. I do it. And also, if you want to just moderation, I'm a good moderation person too. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. I think that's also why a lot of people are like, I don't want to see a counselor, or I don't want to get any help because I don't want to totally stop. You don't have to totally stop. It's your body. I want to do what works for you. But I'll support you and help you understand your limits.
That is so interesting to me because I was gonna ask, like, especially let's say for alcohol and someone who might be officially diagnosed as,
Mhm.
as addicted. Is there a safe amount that they can, like, maybe they used to drink a whole bottle, but is it okay for them to, like, have a glass? Like, are they to completely abstain? I feel like it's cold turkey. It's like one or the other because the second they have a drink, is that considered a relapse?
And that's interesting because it's personalized. So
Mm.
Mm,
let's say Ashley decides, hey, I've been drinking a case of beer a day.
right.
I do not want to totally give it up. So I would help. You know what, Ashley, it's your body, your life. What are your goals? Well, my goal is to maybe only drink 3 or 4 beers a day. Okay, well, what would that look like? What else would you do besides drink? What things are you doing while you're drinking? Because some people don't realize they have associated drinking a beer with smoking their cigarette. So it's and now the two have gone together. So we want to really look at that person, what they're doing, what they
Mhm.
want their lives to look like, and make that individual choice for them. So some people, they have decided, hey, I know me, it's all or nothing. Okay, great, let's go with all or nothing. And then other people are like, hey, I'm not gonna lie to you, Jenny, I'm going to drink when I go out. So okay, well, let's plan for that. Let's decide what kind of drinks, because certain things are stronger than others. So we have those individualized plans because everybody's different. Everybody has different goals, and everybody wants to do something different with their lives, and that's okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So, what should be the first steps for someone to overcome addiction?
The first step would have to be admitting that they do have a problem with substance use. And I know that sounds cliche, but it is the hardest part, and it is the first step to overcoming addiction. But I think the people around them and the people they go to admit that they need help need to understand that it's not going to look the same for everybody. Like I
Yeah.
just said, you have to be able to talk to that person and say, well, what does recovery look like to you? And it has to be personal because at the end of the day, I can be a therapist, I can be your wellness coach, but you have to want it, and you have to be able to abide by whatever plan we come up with. So I compare it to exercising and dieting. Like, I've been on a diet for a hot minute, but I haven't really lost no weight, and there's a reason because it's easier said than done. So some days I'm doing really well, and I'm able to not eat that piece of cake or have that Reese's peanut butter cup that I love so much, and then other days not so much. So it has to be individualized. And if I have my doctor telling me, well, look, you're gonna have to eat nothing but broccoli every day, she can tell me that all she wants, but I promise you, it's not. And she gonna wonder why every time I come in, I weigh a few more pounds because you tried to tell me how to live my life and have this diet, but I have to live it. So we really have to be honest about what does that substance do for a person. Nobody really drinks or uses drugs because they just want to have an addiction. They do it because it
Right.
feels good. I mean, that's
Mm.
just the honest to God truth of it. The alcohol is a depressant, which means it takes away anxiety. It takes away worry. And a lot of times, let's face it, life is hard, and it's people don't want to have to deal with that all the time. So if we can get to the root of those issues, like, what's going on that make you feel like you need to escape. So all of those are going to be really important parts. But to answer the question, the first step is admitting, hey, this is a problem and I'm not able to really get this under control by myself.
Mm.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
love how you humanize it and you make it like it's not just, like follow the 12 steps of AA and you gonna make it, because that might not be realistic for everybody.
It's probably not. I mean, these days we have social media, and social media really plays a part in how people recover and how people decide to use drugs or alcohol. So we
Mm-hmm.
really have to be honest with ourselves about what it looks like and how do we help each other, because all of us got something going on. So just
Yeah.
like you would want somebody to be kind to you.
Yes.
Yeah. And speaking about helping each other, how can we help each other,
Right.
especially with people coping with addiction?
This is one of the first steps, having an honest conversation,
Mhm.
and really being open about what addiction looks like, especially in the Black community. We really have to be honest, and I mean extremely honest, about what addiction does, how that
Mm-hmm.
gets passed on in families. That's why it's so important to recognize it as a disease, because it does have a genetic component. So, and the best way we can help each other is to remove the stigma. Don't make people feel like they're a bad person or they just don't know what to do with their lives. Be understanding and realize that at some point, yeah, at first they made a choice. They may have decided to have that first drink. But at some point with addiction, that choice is no longer there. They're drinking so that their brain can feel normal, so that their body can feel normal, so they can avoid having withdrawal symptoms. So just being kind and understanding. And I would say if you really want to get them connected to something, you can call 988, which is the crisis line. And no matter where they are, they can get resources.
Mm.
Yes. And speaking of resources, because obviously it might take a whole village,
It does.
to take that person back. Can you tell us the services that you provide as a recovery wellness coach?
Yes, I can. So I am a therapist that's licensed in Louisiana, almost Georgia, almost Indiana. But as a recovery wellness coach, I can see anyone all over the United States. And what I do with that, if the person is already in the maintenance phase of recovery, which basically means they're at a part where they are no longer going through the initial phases of withdrawal, or they are just trying to now sustain life without their drug of choice, or with moderation of it. So I might have a mom that's saying, hey, I don't know how to parent at sober. I have never had to do that before. I
Ooh.
don't know what that looks like. How do I do that? So I would help them and coach them through that. I may have a dad who says, hey, I'm working on getting my kids back, but I got 2 DUIs and I don't know how to present myself to the court. I don't know how to get a lawyer. I don't know how to move forward in that. So I help with things like that. But also if that person is just deciding, hey, I don't even know what I really want to do. I think I want to stop. I talk you through that and help you through that. And whatever you decide is what we'll work on. I meet people where they are, and
Mm.
that's what's important to me.
Any last thoughts or words to anyone who is having difficulty with addiction? Any last thoughts?
Yes, my last thoughts would be you are important. You are needed in this world. And there is absolutely no reason why you should have to suffer in silence. Talk to someone. If you want to DM me and have a conversation, that's also fine. But I just want you to reach out, get the help you need, and that this does not make you any less of a human being.
I love it.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, you do an amazing work.
I think.
You are doing amazing work. I love it.
Thank you.
I know it can't be easy, but I'm sure it's fulfilling,
Yeah,
in more ways than one. And hopefully, if anyone who might be struggling or knows anyone who's struggling, they can refer to you in this episode and enlist any of these resources and speak to you. And hopefully, you guys reach out.
yes. And if
Yeah,
you don't like me, that's fine. I could connect you to somebody else. I just want you to be okay.
yeah, yes. Know that there are options, and yes, you
Yeah.
do not have to suffer in silence.
Yeah.
Jenny, we thank you so much for coming on and speaking with us. Everyone, please like, follow, comment. Let us know your thoughts on this episode.
All right. Till next time,
Yeah.
everyone. Bye.
Yes, take care.
Bye.